What happens when the most powerful empire in the galaxy demands your surrender, and you respond with a single word? No. For 3,000 years, the Galactic Dominion had never heard that word. Every species they encountered either bent the knee or was erased from existence. Submission wasn't just expected, it was inevitable, until they met humanity. This is the story of how Earth didn't just refuse to submit. We showed an empire that had conquered 10,000 worlds what true command actually looks like. And by the end, the galaxy would never be the same. I'm talking about the moment when humanity's greatest weakness became our most terrifying strength. When our stubborn refusal to accept the natural order of things turned the entire galactic hierarchy on its head. Stick around, because this story has everything. Impossible odds, a conspiracy that reaches the highest levels of galactic government, and the moment when humanity proved that sometimes the best response to overwhelming power is overwhelming audacity. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. If you're new here, I explore the incredible potential of humanity through epic science fiction storytelling. Stories that showcase what makes us uniquely terrifying and awesome in a universe full of aliens who think they have us figured out. Today's story is special. It's about power, command, and what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object that refuses to play by the rules. Before we dive in, if you enjoy epic sci-fi stories that showcase humanity's indomitable spirit, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. We're building an amazing community of sci-fi enthusiasts here, and I don't want you to miss any of our adventures among the stars. Now, let me set the stage. The year is 2547. Humanity has been exploring space for just over 200 years. We've established colonies on 17 worlds, built a modest fleet of exploration and defense vessels, and made first contact with exactly 3 alien species, all of them peaceful traders and explorers like ourselves. We thought we understood the galaxy. We thought space was vast enough for everyone to coexist peacefully. We were wrong. The Galactic Dominion had been watching us, studying us, and they had decided that humanity was ready to learn its place in the cosmic order. What they didn't know, what they couldn't have known, was that humanity doesn't have a place in anyone's order. We make our own. Chapter 1. The Day the Sky Changed. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the UESS Defiance, humanity's flagship, watching Earth rotate peacefully below. At 53, she had spent 30 years in the United Earth Space Service, rising through the ranks during humanity's golden age of expansion. The stars had always brought her peace. Today, they brought something else. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Marcus Webb from the sensor station, his voice tight with tension. "We're detecting massive spatial distortions at the edge of the solar system. Multiple contacts, very large contacts." Sarah's jaw tightened. "How many?" "Sensors are still calculating, ma'am. At least 300 vessels." "No, wait." Marcus's voice cracked slightly. "Admiral, we're reading over 1,000 ships. They just keep coming." The observation deck fell silent. Sarah had commanded fleets in border skirmishes, had negotiated with alien traders, had even faced down pirates in the outer colonies. But nothing in her experience had prepared her for this. "Sound general quarters," she ordered, her voice steady despite the ice forming in her stomach. "Get me a direct line to Earth Defense Command and the Colonial Fleet, and someone tell me what the hell we're looking at." The main view screen flickered to life, showing the tactical display of the solar system. What Sarah saw made her blood run cold. The contacts weren't just numerous, they were enormous. Each vessel dwarfed humanity's largest warships, and they were moving in perfect formation, a wall of metal and power that stretched across the void like the hand of an angry god. "Ma'am," said Commander James Park, her executive officer, "we're receiving a transmission. It's on all frequencies, all languages. They want us to know they're here." "Put it through," The view screen shifted, and Sarah found herself staring at something that would haunt her nightmares for years to come. The alien was massive, easily 3 meters tall, with chitinous armor that gleamed like polished obsidian. 4 arms, each ending in clawed hands, eyes that glowed with an inner fire, and a presence that radiated absolute authority. "I am Supreme Commander Vexthor of the Galactic Dominion," the alien said, its voice a deep rumble that the translation software rendered with unsettling clarity. "For 3,000 of your years, the Dominion has brought order to this galaxy. We have unified 10,000 species under our banner. We have ended countless wars. We have brought peace through strength." Sarah said nothing, waiting. She had learned long ago that silence was often the best response to a threat. "Your species has been observed," Vexthor continued. "You have demonstrated sufficient technological capability to warrant inclusion in the Dominion. This is not a negotiation. This is not a request. You will submit to Dominion authority. You will provide tribute. You will accept our governance. In return, you will receive our protection and the benefits of our civilization." The alien leaned forward, and Sarah could see what might have been amusement in those burning eyes. "You have 72 of your hours to signal your acceptance. Failure to comply will result in the systematic destruction of your military assets, followed by orbital bombardment of your primary population centers. We have done this before. We will do it again if necessary. But we would prefer to welcome humanity into the Dominion peacefully." The transmission ended. For a long moment, no one on the bridge spoke. Then Lieutenant Webb broke the silence. "Admiral, what do we do?" Sarah stared at the tactical display, at the 1,000 ships that could erase humanity from existence with contemptuous ease. She thought about her daughter on Earth, about the billions of people who had no idea their entire civilization was about to change forever. "We call an emergency session of the United Earth Council," she said quietly, "and we figure out how to tell them that we have 3 days to decide whether to surrender our freedom or face extinction." Chapter 2. The Council Debates. The emergency session of the United Earth Council convened in Geneva, in the same chamber where humanity had first united under a single government 200 years earlier. Representatives from every nation, every colony, every faction of human civilization gathered to face the greatest crisis in history. Secretary General David Okonkwo stood at the podium, his dark skin gleaming under the harsh lights. At 67, he had led Earth through economic crises, colonial disputes, and the challenges of first contact with alien life. But nothing had prepared him for this. "The situation is clear," he said, his deep voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "The Galactic Dominion has given us an ultimatum: submit or die. We have 68 hours remaining to make our decision." The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted over each other, some demanding immediate surrender, others calling for resistance at any cost. "Order!" Okonkwo's voice cut through the noise. "We will proceed with dignity. Representative Zhang, you have the floor." Ambassador Li Jiang of the Asian Coalition stood, her elderly frame somehow projecting strength despite her 79 years. "We must be realistic," she said. "Our entire military fleet consists of 247 vessels. They have over 1,000 ships, each one larger and more powerful than anything we've built. This isn't a fight we can win." "So we just give up?" demanded General Marcus Rodriguez of the America's Defense Force. "We hand over our freedom without even trying?" "I'm suggesting we survive," Zhang replied coldly. "Dead people don't have freedom. They don't have anything." "The ambassador has a point," said Prime Minister Yuki Tanaka of the Pacific Alliance. "Perhaps submission isn't the end. Perhaps it's a beginning. We could learn from them, grow stronger, and eventually—" "Eventually what?" interrupted Dr. Amara Osei, the representative from the African Union. "Eventually rebel? They've been doing this for 3,000 years. They've crushed 10,000 species. What makes you think we'd be any different? The debate raged for hours. Some argued for immediate surrender. Others demanded resistance. A few suggested trying to negotiate, to buy time, to find some middle ground. But one voice remained silent throughout the debate. Admiral Sarah Chen sat in the military observer section, watching and listening. She had been invited to provide tactical assessment, but so far she had said nothing. Finally, Secretary General Okonkwo turned to her. "Admiral Chen, you've been quiet. What is your assessment of our military options?" Sarah stood slowly, feeling the weight of every eye in the chamber. She walked to the podium, her uniform crisp despite the long hours since the Dominion's arrival. "My assessment," she said quietly, "is that we have no military options, not conventional ones anyway." Murmurs of despair rippled through the chamber. "If we fight them ship to ship, we lose. If we try to defend Earth orbit, we lose. If we evacuate to the colonies and try to wage a guerrilla campaign, we eventually lose. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Their numbers are overwhelming. In a straight fight, humanity doesn't stand a chance." "Then we surrender," Zhang said, relief evident in her voice. "I didn't say that," Sarah replied, and something in her tone made the entire chamber fall silent. She pulled up a holographic display showing the Dominion fleet's formation. "I've been studying their approach, their tactics, their communication patterns, and I've noticed something interesting." The display zoomed in on the command ship, the massive vessel at the center of the formation. "They're arrogant," Sarah continued. 3,000 years of unchallenged dominance has made them predictable. They don't adapt because they've never needed to. They use the same formations, the same tactics, the same psychological warfare techniques because they've always worked. "What are you suggesting?" Okonkwo asked. Sarah's expression hardened. "I'm suggesting that maybe we don't fight them the way they expect. Maybe we don't fight them at all. Maybe we show them something they've never seen before." "Which is?" General Rodriguez leaned forward. "Command," Sarah said simply. "Real command. Not the kind that comes from having the biggest guns or the most ships. The kind that comes from understanding your enemy better than they understand themselves. The kind that makes them question everything they thought they knew." She turned to face the full council. "The Dominion expects us to either surrender or fight. Both responses fit their worldview. Both responses they know how to handle. But what if we do neither? What if we respond in a way that's so unexpected, so audacious, that it forces them to see us not as another species to be conquered, but as something different?" "You're talking in riddles, Admiral," Tanaka said impatiently. "What specifically are you proposing?" Sarah smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant expression. "I'm proposing we invite Supreme Commander Vexthor to Earth, face to face. No weapons, no fleets. Just a conversation between commanders." The chamber exploded in protest. "That's insane. They'll see it as weakness. We'd be putting the entire planet at risk." Sarah waited for the noise to die down. "Yes," she said calmly. "It's all of those things. But it's also something they won't expect. And in my experience, the unexpected is the only advantage we have." Secretary General Okonkwo studied her for a long moment. "And what happens during this conversation, Admiral? What do you say to a being who has conquered 10,000 worlds?" Sarah's smile widened. "I show him what command really looks like." Chapter 3. The Scientist's Secret. While the Council debated humanity's fate, Dr. James Chen worked alone in his laboratory deep beneath the surface of Mars. At 41, James was one of humanity's leading experts in quantum field theory and exotic matter manipulation. He was also Admiral Sarah Chen's younger brother, though few people knew about their relationship. James stared at the holographic display floating above his workstation, showing equations that would have been incomprehensible to anyone else. For the past 5 years, he had been working on a project so classified that only 17 people in the entire solar system knew it existed. Project Lighthouse. "Computer," he said, his voice hoarse from hours of work. "Run simulation 7412. The display shifted, showing a three-dimensional model of a device that looked like a cross between a particle accelerator and a star. Energy patterns flowed through it in impossible ways, bending space and time in configurations that shouldn't exist. The simulation ran for 30 seconds. Then it collapsed, the device tearing itself apart in a cascade of quantum instabilities. "Failure," the computer announced unnecessarily. "Containment breach at 17 microseconds. Estimated destructive yield, planetary scale." James slumped in his chair, exhaustion and frustration warring in his chest. 7,412 attempts. 7,412 failures. Project Lighthouse was supposed to be humanity's secret weapon, a device that could manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. In theory, it could create localized fields where the laws of physics operated differently, where human ships could move faster, hit harder, defend better than anything the Dominion possessed. In practice, it kept exploding. His communication console chimed. James almost ignored it, but the priority code made him look up. It was his sister. "Sarah," he said, accepting the call. Her face appeared on the screen, and he could see the strain in her eyes. "I saw the news. The Dominion fleet." "James, I need to know. Is Lighthouse ready?" He wanted to lie. Wanted to tell her that yes, humanity's secret weapon was operational, that they had a chance, but he couldn't. "No," he said quietly. "I'm close, but no. The containment fields keep failing. Every simulation ends in catastrophic collapse. If we tried to use it now, we'd destroy ourselves before the Dominion could." Sarah closed her eyes briefly. "How close?" "I don't know. Could be days, could be months, could be never." James leaned forward. "Sarah, what are you planning?" "Something stupid," she replied. "Something that might buy you the time you need." "Don't do anything crazy," James said, fear creeping into his voice. "You're all I have left." Sarah's expression softened. Their parents had died in the colony ship disaster 15 years ago. They were each other's only family. "I'm not planning to die, little brother. I'm planning to win, but I need you to keep working. If my plan fails, Lighthouse might be our only hope. And if I can't make it work?" Sarah smiled sadly. "Then we go down fighting, but at least we go down as humans, not as slaves." The transmission ended, leaving James alone with his equations and his failures. He stared at the holographic display for a long moment, then pulled up a new simulation. "Computer," he said, determination hardening his voice. "Let's try something different. What if we don't try to contain the instabilities? What if we channel them?" "Clarify parameters," the computer requested. James's fingers flew over the controls, adjusting variables, changing fundamental assumptions. "Instead of preventing the quantum cascade, we direct it. Use the instability itself as the weapon. It doesn't need to be stable if it only needs to work once." The computer processed for several seconds. "Warning. Proposed configuration has a 97% probability of catastrophic failure. What about the other 3%? Insufficient data to calculate outcome. Theoretical models suggest either complete success or reality-scale disruption." James laughed, a slightly manic sound. "Reality-scale disruption. That's a new one." He paused, considering. "Run the simulation anyway." As the computer began its calculations, James thought about his sister, about the impossible task she had set for herself. Sarah had always been the brave one, the one who charged forward while he hid in laboratories with his equations. Maybe it was time for him to be brave too. The simulation completed. James stared at the results, his heart pounding. It hadn't exploded. It hadn't worked either. The field had collapsed after 0.03 seconds. But it hadn't exploded. For the first time in 7,412 attempts, the device had failed safely. "Computer," James said, his voice shaking slightly. "Save these parameters, and get me a direct line to Admiral Chen. Tell her I might have something." Chapter -4. Humanity's Gambit. The response from the Galactic Dominion came 6 hours after Admiral Chen's invitation was transmitted. Supreme Commander Vexthor would meet with humanity's representatives on Earth, in Geneva, in 48 hours. The fact that he agreed at all shocked most of the Council. The fact that he agreed so quickly terrified them. "It's a trap," General Rodriguez insisted during the emergency strategy session. "He's going to use the meeting as cover to deploy ground forces or orbital weapons." "Possibly," Sarah agreed. She stood at the head of the conference table, surrounded by Earth's military and political leadership. "But I don't think so. The Dominion doesn't need tricks. They could destroy us right now if they wanted to. No, Vexthor is coming because he's curious." "Curious about what?" asked Dr. Osei. "About why we're not behaving the way we're supposed to," Sarah replied. She pulled up a holographic display showing historical records of Dominion conquests. "I've been studying their pattern. Every species they've encountered has responded in one of two ways: immediate surrender or immediate resistance. Both responses they understand. Both responses they can handle efficiently." She zoomed in on several specific cases. "But look at these anomalies. 3 times in their history, they've encountered species that responded differently, species that didn't fit their expectations. And in all 3 cases, the Dominion didn't immediately attack. They paused, they studied, they tried to understand." "What happened to those species?" Secretary General Okonkwo asked quietly. Sarah's expression darkened. 2 were eventually conquered, but the third, the Krell Collective, they negotiated a treaty. They're still independent, still sovereign. The only species in Dominion space that isn't under their direct control. How did they do it? Ambassador Zhang leaned forward. "By making themselves too interesting to destroy," Sarah said. "The Krell had technology the Dominion wanted, knowledge they couldn't get anywhere else. They made themselves valuable enough that conquest would have been wasteful. We don't have technology that advanced," Rodriguez pointed out. "No," Sarah agreed. "But we have something else. Something the Dominion has never encountered in Geneva had been transformed. Which is the usual conference setup had been replaced with something more dramatic. And humanity doesn't know how to submit. A circular room with a single table at the center. No weapons were allowed, no guards, just 2 chairs facing each other across polished wood." Admiral Sarah Chen arrived first, wearing her dress uniform, every medal and ribbon perfectly placed. She sat in one chair and waited, her hands folded calmly on the table, her expression serene. She didn't have to wait long. The air shimmered, and Supreme Commander Vexthor materialized in the room, transported directly from his flagship by technology humanity couldn't begin to replicate. He was even more imposing in person, 3 meters of armored muscle and predatory grace. He studied Sarah for a long moment, his burning eyes taking in every detail. Then, surprisingly, he sat in the chair across from her. "You are Admiral Sarah Chen," he said. It wasn't a question. "I am. You command humanity's military forces. I do. And yet you sit here alone, unarmed, facing a being who could kill you with a thought." Vexthor's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. "Brave or foolish?" "Neither," Sarah replied calmly. "Practical. If you wanted me dead, I'd be dead whether I was armed or not, whether I had guards or not. So why waste the energy on pretense?" Vexthor leaned back slightly. "An interesting perspective. Most species we encounter spend considerable effort on displays of strength, even when that strength is meaningless. Most species you encounter are afraid of you, Sarah said. Fear makes people stupid. And you are not afraid? Sarah smiled. I didn't say that. I'm terrified. But fear is just information. It tells me you're dangerous. It doesn't tell me what to do about it. For the first time, something like interest flickered in Vex Thor's eyes. You invited me here for a reason, Admiral, not to surrender. You would have done that already. Not to fight. You know you cannot win. So why? To show you something, Sarah said. She pulled up a holographic display between them, showing Earth from orbit. This is my world, 4 billion years old, home to 8 billion humans and countless other species. Beautiful, isn't it? Adequate, Vex Thor said dismissively. Sarah's smile didn't waver. The Dominion has conquered 10,000 species. You've brought order to the galaxy. You've ended wars, unified civilizations, created peace through strength. It's impressive. You mock me. Not at all. I'm genuinely impressed. 3,000 years of unchallenged dominance. That takes skill, power, and vision. Sarah leaned forward slightly. But it also takes something else. Something you might not have considered. Which is stagnation. The word hung in the air like a challenge. Vex Thor's eyes narrowed dangerously. Explain. Sarah changed the holographic display, showing the Dominion's expansion over the centuries. Your empire hasn't grown in 500 years. Your technology hasn't fundamentally changed in 1,000. Your tactics, your strategies, your methods, all refined to perfection, but not evolved. You've reached a plateau. We have achieved perfection, Vex Thor said coldly. There is no need for change. That's what every empire in history has said right before it fell, Sarah replied. The Romans, the Mongols, the British, all of them reached a point where they believed they had perfected the art of dominance. All of them were wrong. Those were primitive civilizations on a single world, Vex Thor dismissed. The Dominion spans the galaxy, which makes your stagnation even more dangerous, Sarah countered. You've conquered 10,000 species, but what have you learned from them? What have they taught you? Or did you just absorb them into your hierarchy and move on? Vex Thor was silent for a moment. You are trying to anger me, to provoke me into making a mistake. It will not work. I'm not trying to anger you, Sarah said. I'm trying to show you what you're about to lose. Lose? We are about to gain another species for the Dominion. Sarah shook her head. No, you're about to lose the opportunity to learn from us. Because if you conquer humanity, if you force us into submission, you'll destroy the very thing that makes us valuable. And what is that? Sarah stood, walking around the table to stand beside Vex Thor. She gestured to the holographic display, which now showed images of human history. Wars, disasters, triumphs, failures. Humanity has been to the brink of extinction a dozen times, she said quietly. We faced ice ages, plagues, world wars, environmental collapse. Every time, we've survived. Not because we were the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced, but because we refused to accept that survival was impossible. She turned to face Vex Thor directly. You want to know what makes humanity different? It's not our technology. It's not our numbers. It's our absolute, stubborn, irrational refusal to submit to anything. Not to nature, not to fate, and certainly not to other species who think they know what's best for us. Defiance is not strength, Vex Thor said. It is foolishness. Maybe, Sarah agreed. But it's also innovation. It's adaptation. It's evolution. Every time we've faced something impossible, we've found a way to make it possible. Not because we were supposed to, but because we refused to accept that we couldn't. She sat back down, meeting Vex Thor's gaze steadily. You can conquer us. You can destroy our fleets, occupy our worlds, force us into your hierarchy. But you'll never make us submit. Not really. And in trying to break us, you'll lose the chance to learn from us, to grow, to evolve beyond the plateau you've reached. You offer an alliance? Vexathor asked, his tone skeptical. I offer a challenge, Sarah replied. Prove to me that the Dominion is more than just the biggest bully in the galaxy. Show me that you're capable of something other than conquest. Work with us instead of ruling us. Learn from us instead of absorbing us. And if I refuse, Sarah's expression hardened, then you'll conquer another species that will eventually fade into your empire, forgotten and irrelevant. And you'll never know what you could have learned from us, what we could have taught you, what we could have become together. Vexathor stood, towering over Sarah. For a long moment, he said nothing, his burning eyes studying her face. You are either the bravest being I have ever encountered, he said finally, or the most foolish. I have not yet decided which. Can't it be both? Sarah asked with a slight smile. Something that might have been amusement flickered across Vexathor's alien features. Perhaps. He turned toward the door, then paused. I will consider your words, Admiral Chen. But know this. The Dominion does not negotiate with species who have not proven their worth. If you want to be treated as equals, you must demonstrate that you deserve such treatment. What did you have in mind? Vexathor's mandibles clicked in what was definitely amusement now. A test, a demonstration of this human innovation you speak of so proudly. You have 48 hours to show me something that impresses me, something that proves humanity is worth more as partners than as subjects. And if we succeed, then we will talk further, as equals. Vexathor's eyes gleamed. And if you fail, you will submit to Dominion authority without further resistance. Do you accept these terms? Sarah didn't hesitate. I accept. Then I look forward to seeing what humanity can accomplish when properly motivated. Vexathor shimmered and vanished, transported back to his flagship. Sarah sat alone in the chamber for a long moment, her calm facade finally cracking. Her hands were shaking slightly as she pulled out her communication device. James, she said when her brother answered, please tell me you have good news. Define good, James replied, his face appearing on the screen. He looked exhausted, but excited. I've made a breakthrough. Lighthouse might actually work. But Sarah, it's dangerous. Really dangerous. If something goes wrong, how dangerous? Planetary scale catastrophic failure. Dangerous. Sarah closed her eyes briefly. Can you make it work in 48 hours? Maybe. Probably. I don't know. James ran his hands through his hair. Sarah, what did you do? I bought us time, she replied. Now we need to use it. Get Lighthouse operational, whatever it takes. And if it doesn't work? Sarah's expression hardened. Then we show the Dominion what humanity looks like when we have nothing left to lose. Chapter -5. The race against time. Deep beneath Mars's surface, Dr. James Chen's laboratory had transformed into controlled chaos. 17 scientists and engineers worked around the clock, their faces illuminated by holographic displays showing equations that bent the laws of physics into pretzels. The containment field is still unstable, reported Dr. Yuki Tanaka, James's lead engineer. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and sharper instincts. We're getting better coherence, but the quantum cascade is unpredictable. Sometimes it channels correctly. Sometimes it tears a hole in space-time. How big a hole? James asked, not looking up from his own calculations. Last simulation? About the size of Mars. James winced. That would be bad. Understatement of the century, Yuki muttered. She pulled up a three-dimensional model of the Lighthouse device. The problem is the resonance frequency. We're trying to create a stable field that manipulates fundamental forces, but those forces don't want to be manipulated. It's like trying to hold lightning in your bare hands. Then we need better gloves, James said. He zoomed in on a specific section of the device. What if we don't try to hold it? What if we just redirect it? Redirect it where? Anywhere but here. James's fingers flew over the controls, adjusting parameters. The Dominion's ships operate on a specific energy frequency. We've been analyzing their emissions since they arrived. What if we tune Lighthouse to resonate with their frequency? Use their own technology as a ground for the excess energy? Yuki stared at him. That's actually brilliant and completely insane. If we miscalculate the resonance, we could accidentally destroy their entire fleet. Would that be so bad? James, there are over 1,000 ships up there. Each one probably has a crew of hundreds or thousands. We'd be killing millions of beings. James slumped in his chair, the weight of what they were attempting finally hitting him. You're right. We can't do that. Even if they're threatening us, mass murder isn't the answer. So what do we do? James thought for a long moment, staring at the holographic display. Then, slowly, a smile spread across his face. We don't use Lighthouse as a weapon. We use it as a demonstration. I'm not following. Vexthor wants to see human innovation, right? Something that proves we're worth more as partners than subjects. James pulled up a new set of calculations. What if we show him something no one in the galaxy has ever seen before? What if we use Lighthouse to do something impossible? Like what? James's smile widened. Like moving a planet. The silence in the laboratory was absolute. Every scientist and engineer had stopped working, staring at James as if he'd lost his mind. You want to move Mars, Yuki said slowly. You want to use an experimental device that has a 97% failure rate to move an entire planet. Not move it far, James clarified. Just nudge it. Shift its orbit by a few thousand kilometers. Enough to prove that we can manipulate gravitational fields on a planetary scale. Enough to show the Dominion that human innovation isn't just about weapons or defenses. It's about reshaping reality itself. And if it fails, then Mars explodes, taking us and everyone on it with it. James met Yuki's gaze steadily. But if we do nothing, the Dominion conquers us anyway. At least this way, we go out trying something magnificent. Yuki stared at him for a long moment, then laughed, a slightly manic sound. You Chen siblings are absolutely insane. You know that, right? It's been mentioned, James admitted. Fine. Yuki turned back to her console. Let's move a planet. What could possibly go wrong? Chapter 6. The Dominion's doubt aboard the Dominion flagship Eternal Conquest. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood in his command chamber, reviewing the data his analysts had compiled on humanity. The more he learned, the more unsettled he became. Their military capabilities are negligible, reported Subcommander Krell, a smaller member of Vexthor's species. 247 vessels, none of which pose a significant threat to our shields. Their weapons are primitive. Their tactics are predictable. Conquest would be trivial. And yet Admiral Chen did not seem concerned, Vexthor mused. She sat across from me, alone and unarmed, and spoke as if she held all the advantages. Bravado, Krell dismissed. A psychological tactic to mask weakness. Perhaps. Vexthor pulled up a holographic display showing human history. But look at their record. This species has survived extinction-level events multiple times. They have fought wars that killed millions of their own kind, yet they always rebuild. They face impossible odds and somehow prevail. Luck, Krell suggested. No species is that lucky for that long. Vexthor zoomed in on specific historical events. They split the atom and nearly destroyed themselves with it. They poisoned their own atmosphere and had to reverse the damage. They've faced plagues, famines, natural disasters, and every time they adapt. They overcome. They are resilient, Krell acknowledged. But resilience is not strength. The Dominion has conquered resilient species before. Have we? Vexthor turned to face his subordinate. Or have we simply absorbed them before they could show us what they were truly capable of? Krell's mandibles clicked in confusion. Commander, I do not understand. You sound almost uncertain. Vexthor was silent for a moment. In 3,000 years, the Dominion had never failed to conquer a species they targeted. Their methods were proven, their power was absolute. And yet, Admiral Chen said something that troubles me, Vexthor admitted. She said we have stagnated, that we have reached a plateau. I dismissed her words as provocation, but I cannot stop thinking about them. The Dominion is perfect, Krell said firmly. We have achieved the ultimate form of galactic governance. There is no need for change. That is what concerns me, Vexthor replied quietly. When was the last time we truly innovated? When was the last time we encountered something that challenged our understanding? When was the last time we learned something new? Krell had no answer. I have commanded Dominion forces for 200 years, Vexthor continued. I have conquered 47 species, and every single conquest followed the same pattern. Arrive, demand submission, crush resistance, absorb the survivors, move on. He turned back to the display showing Earth. But what if Admiral Chen is right? What if, in our perfection, we have lost the ability to grow? Commander, with respect, you are overthinking this. Humanity is just another species. They will submit or they will be destroyed. It is that simple. Is it? Vexthor pulled up the recording of his conversation with Sarah Chen. Watch her eyes, Krell. She is not afraid. She should be terrified. Her entire species faces extinction. But she sits there, calm and confident, as if she knows something we do not. What could she possibly know that we do not? That, Vexthor said, is what I intend to find out. Chapter 7. Humanity's Gamble. 47 hours and 32 minutes after Vexthor's challenge, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the UESS Defiance, watching Mars through the viewport. Somewhere beneath that red surface, her brother was either about to change history or end it. All Dominion vessels have been invited to observe, Commander Park reported. Vexthor himself is en route to our position. Good, Sarah said, though her stomach was churning. Let's make sure he has a front row seat. The air shimmered, and Vexthor materialized on the observation deck, flanked by 2 guards in elaborate armor. Sarah had insisted the demonstration take place on a human vessel. Neutral ground, she'd called it. In reality, she wanted Vexthor close enough to see her face when Lighthouse activated. She wanted him to see that humanity wasn't bluffing. Admiral Chen, Vexthor greeted her. I confess, I am curious. What demonstration could possibly convince me that humanity deserves partnership rather than subjugation? Something no one in the galaxy has ever done before, Sarah replied. She gestured to the viewport, showing Mars. Supreme Commander, how much do you know about planetary mechanics? Sufficient, Vexthor said warily. Why? Because in approximately 3 minutes, my brother is going to move that planet. Vexthor's eyes widened slightly, the first genuine surprise Sarah had seen from him. Impossible. The energy required to alter a planet's orbit would be astronomical, Sarah finished. Yes, which is why no one has ever done it, until now. She pulled up a holographic display showing the Lighthouse device deep beneath Mars's surface. For the past 5 years, humanity has been developing technology that manipulates fundamental forces at the quantum level. We call it Project Lighthouse. It's unstable, dangerous, and completely unprecedented. You are bluffing, Vexthor said, but there was uncertainty in his voice. Am I? Sarah smiled. In 2 minutes, you'll know for sure. Deep beneath Mars, James Chen stood in the control room, surrounded by his team. Every screen showed green lights, the first time in 7,000 simulations that all systems had been optimal simultaneously. This is either going to be humanity's greatest achievement, Yuki said quietly, or its last mistake. Let's hope for the former. James replied. He opened a communication channel to the Defiance. Sarah, we're ready. Lighthouse is charged and stable. Well, as stable as it's going to get. Probability of success? Sarah asked. James hesitated. Honestly, I have no idea. The math says it should work, but the math also said it should explode 7,000 times, so inspiring confidence as always, little brother. It's what I do. James took a deep breath. Sarah, if this goes wrong, it won't, Sarah interrupted firmly. You're the smartest person I know, James. If anyone can pull off the impossible, it's you. No pressure then. None at all. Activate Lighthouse on my mark. Sarah turned to Vexthor, who was watching the exchange with intense focus. Supreme Commander, I want you to understand something. What you're about to see isn't a weapon. It's not a threat. It's a demonstration of what humanity can accomplish when we're pushed to our limits. It's proof that we're worth more as partners than as subjects. Or it is an elaborate deception, Vexthor countered. I guess we'll find out. Sarah nodded to Commander Park. Mark. Lighthouse activation in 10 seconds, Park announced. 9, 8, 7. On Mars, James's fingers hovered over the final activation sequence. Around him, his team held their breath. 3, 2, 1. Activate. James pressed the button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, deep within Mars's core, the Lighthouse device came to life. It didn't explode. It didn't tear a hole in space-time. Instead, it did exactly what James had designed it to do. It created a localized field that manipulated gravitational forces at the quantum level. Mars shuddered. On the Defiance, every sensor went haywire. Alarms blared as the ship's instruments detected energy readings that shouldn't exist. The viewport showed Mars beginning to glow with an eerie blue light that seemed to come from within the planet itself. What is happening? Vexthor demanded, his voice tight with something that might have been fear. We're reshaping reality, Sarah replied calmly, though her heart was pounding. Watch. Mars moved, not quickly, not dramatically, but unmistakably, the planet shifted in its orbit. Thousands of kilometers in a matter of seconds, its trajectory altered by forces that defied conventional physics. The Dominion sensors across the fleet went into overdrive, trying to analyze what they were seeing. It was impossible. Planets didn't just move. The energy required, the precision needed, the sheer audacity of attempting such a thing. And yet there it was. Mars, hanging in space in a slightly different position than it had been 30 seconds ago. The Lighthouse device powered down, its job complete. On Mars, James and his team stared at their instruments in stunned silence. It worked, Yuki whispered. Holy shit, it actually worked. James laughed, a sound of pure relief and disbelief. We moved a planet. We actually moved a planet. On the Defiance, Vexthor stood frozen, staring at Mars. His guards looked equally shocked, their weapons forgotten. How? Vexthor finally asked. The energy requirements alone should have been impossible. The precision needed to avoid tearing the planet apart is beyond anything the Dominion has ever achieved, Sarah finished. Yes, that's the point, Supreme Commander. Humanity doesn't just innovate within existing frameworks. We break the frameworks and build new ones. She turned to face him directly. You asked for a demonstration. You wanted proof that we're worth more as partners than subjects. Well, there it is. We just moved a planet using technology we developed in 5 years. Imagine what we could accomplish in 50 years, in 500, in 5,000. Vexthor was silent for a long moment. Then slowly, he began to laugh, a deep, rumbling sound that filled the observation deck. Magnificent, he said finally. Absolutely magnificent. Insane, reckless, and completely unprecedented, but magnificent. He turned to Sarah, and for the first time, she saw something like respect in his burning eyes. You have proven your point, Admiral Chen. Humanity is unique. The Dominion has never encountered a species quite like yours. So what happens now? Sarah asked, not daring to hope. Vexthor was quiet for a moment, considering. Now, he said finally, we negotiate, not as conquerors and conquered, but as equals. You have earned that much. Sarah felt relief wash over her, but she kept her expression neutral. And the other species in your empire? The 10,000 you've already conquered? What about them? If humanity deserves partnership, don't they deserve the same choice? The chance to prove their worth rather than simply submit? Vexthor's expression hardened. You ask for much, Admiral. I'm asking for what's right, Sarah replied. You said the Dominion brings order to the galaxy, but order without choice is just tyranny with better PR. You would lecture me on governance? I would remind you of what you said earlier, that you're curious about humanity because we don't fit your expectations. Well, here's another expectation to break. We don't just want freedom for ourselves, we want it for everyone. Vexthor stared at her for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he smiled, an expression that looked strange on his alien features but was unmistakably genuine. You are either going to change the galaxy, Admiral Chen, he said, or destroy it. I have not yet decided which, but I find myself eager to discover the answer. He turned to leave, then paused. I will recommend to the Dominion Council that humanity be granted autonomous partnership status. It will take time. The Council does not change its policies lightly, but I believe I can convince them. And the other species? One revolution at a time, Admiral, Vexthor replied. You have shaken the foundations of a 3,000-year-old empire in a matter of days. Give us time to adjust before you tear down the entire structure. Fair enough, Sarah agreed, but we will be watching, and if the Dominion returns to its old ways, then you will move another planet? Vexthor's mandibles clicked in amusement. I do not doubt it, which is precisely why I believe partnership is the wiser choice. He shimmered and vanished, leaving Sarah alone with her crew. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Commander Park broke the silence. Admiral, did we just win? Sarah smiled, exhaustion and relief finally showing on her face. I think we just changed the rules of the game. Chapter -8. The Scientists' Triumph. 3 days after the demonstration, James Chen stood in the same laboratory where he had spent 5 years chasing an impossible dream. The lighthouse device had been powered down, its exotic matter core carefully contained and studied. Scientists from across human space, and now, surprisingly, from the Dominion, had requested access to his research. The galaxy wanted to understand how humanity had accomplished the impossible. Dr. Chen, said a voice behind him. James turned to find a Dominion scientist, a being with crystalline skin that refracted light in beautiful patterns. I am Scholar Vexrin. I have been studying your lighthouse device. It is remarkable. Thank you, James said cautiously. Though I should mention it's still highly experimental, we got lucky that it worked at all. Luck? Vexrin's crystalline features somehow conveyed amusement. Dr. Chen, I have reviewed your simulations, all 7,412 of them. What you accomplished was not luck, it was persistence, adaptation, innovation. The scholar pulled up a holographic display showing the lighthouse's quantum field patterns. The Dominion has been studying exotic matter manipulation for centuries. We concluded it was impossible to create stable fields at planetary scales. The energy requirements were too high, the quantum instabilities too unpredictable. We didn't make it stable, James admitted. We just made it stable enough, and we only needed it to work once. Precisely, Vexrin said. That is what makes it brilliant. You did not try to achieve perfection. You achieved sufficiency. It is a very human approach. James smiled. Is that a compliment or an insult? Both, perhaps. The scholar's crystalline skin shifted colors, indicating what James had learned was amusement. The Dominion has much to learn from humanity, and I suspect humanity has much to learn from us. This partnership may prove beneficial for all involved. I hope so, James said. Though I have to admit, I'm still not entirely sure how we got here. A week ago, we were facing extinction. Now we're partners with the most powerful empire in the galaxy. You got here by refusing to accept the impossible, Vexrin replied. By pushing boundaries that others believed were fixed. By showing the Dominion something we had forgotten, that there is always room for growth. Always room for change. The scholar turned to leave, then paused. Dr. Chen, I have a question. When you activated Lighthouse, knowing it might destroy Mars and everyone on it, were you afraid? James thought for a moment. Terrified, he admitted, but more afraid of what would happen if I did nothing. That, Vexrin said, is what makes humanity dangerous and valuable. Fear that drives action rather than paralysis. The Dominion will need to remember that. After the scholar left, James's communication console chimed. His sister's face appeared on the screen. James, Sarah said, smiling. I wanted to thank you. What you did, what we did, James interrupted. You're the one who bought us the time. You're the one who convinced Vexthor to give us a chance. And you're the one who moved a planet, Sarah countered. I think that trumps a conversation. James laughed. Fair point. He sobered slightly. Sarah, what happens now? We've changed everything. The Dominion, the galaxy, humanity's place in it all. Where do we go from here? Sarah's expression grew thoughtful. Forward, she said simply. We keep pushing boundaries, keep refusing to accept limitations, keep showing the galaxy what humanity can accomplish when we're given the chance. And if the Dominion changes its mind, if they decide we're too dangerous after all, then we move another planet, Sarah replied with a slight smile. Or maybe a star next time. We'll figure it out. That's what humans do. James nodded, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders. For 5 years, he had carried the burden of Project Lighthouse alone, knowing that humanity's survival might depend on his success. Now, that burden was shared. The galaxy knew what humanity was capable of, and more importantly, humanity knew what it was capable of. Hey, Sarah, James said as she was about to end the call. Mom and Dad would have been proud of both of us. Sarah's eyes glistened slightly. Yeah, she said softly. They would have. Chapter 9. The New Order. 6 months after the demonstration, the Galactic Dominion Council convened for the first time in 50 years. The massive chamber on the Dominion capital world held representatives from all 10,000 conquered species, though conquered was becoming an increasingly inaccurate term. Supreme Commander Vexthor stood at the center of the chamber, addressing the assembled delegates. Admiral Sarah Chen sat in the human delegation section, watching history unfold. For 3,000 years, Vexthor began, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast space. The Dominion has brought order to the galaxy through strength. We have unified disparate species. We have ended countless wars. We have created peace. He paused, his burning eyes sweeping across the chamber. But we have also stagnated. We have stopped growing, stopped learning, stopped evolving. And it took a species we had dismissed as primitive to show us this truth. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Sarah kept her expression neutral, though her heart was pounding. Humanity demonstrated something the Dominion had forgotten, Vexthor continued. That innovation requires freedom, that growth requires risk, that true strength comes not from domination, but from cooperation. He pulled up a holographic display showing the Lighthouse demonstration. They moved a planet, not as a weapon, not as a threat, but as a demonstration of what becomes possible when beings are free to push boundaries, to attempt the impossible, to fail and try again. Vexthor turned to face the human delegation directly. The Dominion Council has voted. Humanity will be granted full autonomous partnership status. They will govern themselves, trade freely, and contribute to Dominion defense and research as equals, not subjects. The chamber erupted in shocked conversation. Sarah felt relief wash over her, but Vexthor wasn't finished. "Furthermore," he said, his voice cutting through the noise, "the Council has agreed to extend the same offer to any species within the Dominion that can demonstrate similar innovation and capability. We will no longer simply conquer and absorb. We will evaluate and partner." The chamber fell silent. This was unprecedented, revolutionary. The entire structure of the Dominion was changing. "This will not be easy," Vexthor acknowledged. "Change never is, but the alternative is stagnation, decline, eventually extinction. The galaxy is vast and full of dangers we have not yet encountered. We will need every advantage, every innovation, every unique perspective we can gather." He looked around the chamber one final time. The age of conquest is over. The age of cooperation begins now. As the session ended and delegates began filing out, Vexthor approached Sarah. "You have gotten your wish, Admiral Chen," he said. "The Dominion is changing. I hope you are prepared for the consequences." "What consequences?" Sarah asked. "Freedom is messy," Vexthor replied. "Some species will thrive, others will struggle. There will be conflicts, disagreements, failures. The order we maintain through strength will be harder to maintain through cooperation." "But it will be real," Sarah said. "Not imposed, not forced. Real cooperation, real partnership, real growth." "Perhaps," Vexthor said. "Or perhaps chaos. Time will tell." He paused. "I find myself curious, Admiral. What will humanity do now? You have achieved your goal. You are free. What comes next?" Sarah smiled. "What we've always done. We'll explore. We'll innovate. We'll push boundaries and attempt the impossible. And maybe, if we're lucky, we'll inspire others to do the same." "You have already inspired the Dominion," Vexthor said. "That is no small feat." "It's a start," Sarah replied. "But it's just a start. The galaxy is vast, Supreme Commander, and humanity is just getting started." Chapter -10, The Legacy. 5 years after humanity's first contact with the Galactic Dominion, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the UESS Horizon, humanity's newest and most advanced vessel. Around her, the crew worked with quiet efficiency, monitoring systems that would have been impossible just a few years ago. The Horizon was a joint project, human innovation combined with Dominion technology and resources from a dozen other species. It was faster than any ship humanity had built before, more powerful, more capable. But more importantly, it was a symbol of what cooperation could achieve. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Webb, who had been promoted to Chief Science Officer. "We're approaching the coordinates. The anomaly should be visible in 3, 2, 1. The viewport filled with something that took Sarah's breath away. A nebula, but unlike any she had ever seen. Colors that shouldn't exist swirled in patterns that defied physics. And at its center, something that might have been a star, or might have been something else entirely. "What are we looking at?" Sarah asked. "Unknown," Webb replied, excitement evident in his voice. "The Dominion has no records of anything like this. Neither does any other species we've contacted. It's completely new." Sarah smiled. This was why she had requested command of the Horizon. Not to patrol known space or enforce treaties, but to explore, to push into the unknown and discover what lay beyond the boundaries of current knowledge. "Take us closer," she ordered. "Let's see what secrets the universe has for us today." As the Horizon moved forward, Sarah thought about the journey that had brought them here. The fear and uncertainty of first contact, the desperate gamble of the lighthouse demonstration, the slow, difficult process of building trust with the Dominion and other species. It hadn't been easy. There had been setbacks, conflicts, moments when it seemed like the whole fragile partnership might collapse. But humanity had persevered. They had shown the galaxy that cooperation was possible, that change was possible, that growth was possible. And now, 5 years later, the galaxy was a different place. The Dominion was still powerful, still influential, but no longer absolute. Dozens of species had earned autonomous partnership status. Trade and cultural exchange flourished. Innovation accelerated as different perspectives and technologies combined in new ways. It wasn't perfect. There were still conflicts, still disagreements, still species that struggled with the transition from subjugation to partnership. But it was better, and it was getting better every day. "Admiral," Webb called out, "we're detecting energy signatures from the anomaly. They're similar to the lighthouse field patterns." Sarah's attention snapped back to the present. Similar how? Very similar, as if someone else has developed quantum field manipulation technology. But the signatures are old, very old, millions of years possibly. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. "Are you saying there was another civilization that developed this technology before any current species?" "That's what the data suggests," Webb confirmed. "And Admiral, if they could manipulate quantum fields millions of years ago, imagine what else they might have been capable of." Sarah stared at the swirling nebula, her mind racing with possibilities. The galaxy was vast, and humanity had only just begun to explore it. How many other mysteries waited out there? How many other impossible things were waiting to be discovered? "Continue scanning," she ordered, "and prepare a full report for Earth and the Dominion Council. If there's evidence of an ancient advanced civilization, everyone needs to know." As the horizon sensors probed the anomaly, Sarah allowed herself a moment of reflection. Humanity had come so far in such a short time, from a species facing extinction to partners in the most powerful alliance in the galaxy. From primitive explorers to pioneers pushing the boundaries of known science. But this discovery reminded her that humanity still had so much to learn. The universe was older and stranger than anyone had imagined, and somewhere out there, in the vast darkness between stars, other mysteries waited. Other challenges, other opportunities to show the galaxy what humanity could accomplish. Sarah smiled. "Let's see what else is out there," she said quietly. "Let's see what other impossible things we can make possible." The horizon moved forward into the unknown, carrying with it humanity's greatest strength, the absolute, stubborn, irrational refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible. And in that moment, Sarah knew that this was just the beginning. Humanity's journey among the stars had only just started, and the galaxy would never be the same. Chapter 11. The Message. 10 years after first contact, Dr. James Chen received a message that would change everything once again. He was in his laboratory on Mars, now a thriving research hub where human and alien scientists worked side by side, when his communication console chimed with a priority alert. The message was simple, just a few lines of text, but those lines contained coordinates, energy signatures, and a single word that made James's blood run cold. Lighthouse. The message had come from deep space, from a region that no known species had ever explored, and the energy signature matched the lighthouse device perfectly, except it was 1,000 times more powerful. Someone else had built a lighthouse, or something like it, and they were using it. James immediately contacted his sister, who was still commanding the Horizon on its exploration mission. "Sarah," he said when she answered, his voice tight with urgency. "We have a problem. A big one." "What kind of problem?" "The kind that suggests we're not alone. And I don't mean alien species. I mean someone else has developed quantum field manipulation technology. Someone with capabilities far beyond ours." Sarah's expression grew serious. "Show me." James transmitted the data. As Sarah reviewed it, Her eyes widened. "This is impossible," she whispered. "The energy levels alone—" "Our planetary scale," James finished. "Maybe stellar scale. Sarah, whoever sent this message, they're not just advanced. They're beyond anything we've encountered. Beyond anything the Dominion has encountered." Could it be the ancient civilization Webb detected? Maybe. Or maybe it's something else, something new. James paused. "Sarah, the message included coordinates. They want us to come to them. Could be a trap. Could be first contact with a civilization that makes the Dominion look primitive." Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled. That same reckless smile James had seen before she'd invited Vexthor to Earth all those years ago. "Well," she said, "there's only one way to find out. Send me the coordinates. The Horizon will investigate." Sarah. "James, we've spent 10 years showing the galaxy that humanity doesn't back down from the impossible. We're not going to start now." James wanted to argue, to tell her it was too dangerous, too risky, but he knew his sister. Once Sarah Chen decided on a course of action, nothing could stop her. "Be careful," he said finally. "Always am," Sarah replied with a grin. "Besides, what's the worst that could happen? We meet beings who can manipulate reality itself? We've already done that. We became partners with them. This might be different. Then we'll adapt. That's what humans do." Sarah's expression softened. "James, we've come so far. We've changed the galaxy. We've shown everyone, including ourselves, what we're capable of. Whatever's out there, whatever sent that message, we'll face it the same way we've faced everything else. How's that? Together, with courage, innovation, and a healthy dose of human stubbornness." The transmission ended, leaving James alone with his thoughts and his fears, but also with hope. Because if there was one thing the past 10 years had taught him, it was that humanity was capable of far more than anyone, including humans themselves, had ever imagined. The galaxy had learned not to underestimate humanity. Now, perhaps, the universe would learn the same lesson. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the Horizon turned toward the coordinates, toward the unknown, toward whatever impossible challenge awaited. Because that's what humans did. They didn't submit. They didn't surrender. They didn't accept limitations. They showed the galaxy, and now the universe, what command really looked like. Chapter -12. And that, my friends, is the story of how humanity didn't just refuse to submit. We showed an entire galaxy what true command looks like, not through domination, but through innovation, not through force, but through the sheer audacity to attempt the impossible. What did you think of this epic tale? Did Admiral Sarah Chen's gambit give you chills? And what about that ending? What do you think is waiting for humanity out there in the unknown? I want to hear from you in the comments below. Here are some questions to get the discussion started. First, if you were in Admiral Chen's position, would you have invited Vexthor to Earth? Or would you have chosen a different strategy? Let me know what you would have done. Second, the lighthouse demonstration, moving an entire planet, was humanity's way of proving our worth. If you could demonstrate one aspect of human innovation to an alien empire, what would it be and why? Third, that ending though, what do you think sent the message? Is it the ancient civilization that Webb detected, or something else entirely? Drop your theories in the comments. Fourth, Supreme Commander Vexthor went from conqueror to ally. Do you think the Dominion's transformation is realistic, or would a 3,000-year-old empire be too set in its ways to change? And here's a fun one. If you could have any piece of technology from this story, the lighthouse device, the Horizon's engines, or the Dominion's teleportation tech, which would you choose and what would you do with it? Now, if this story resonated with you, if it made you think about humanity's potential among the stars, I need you to do 3 things. First, smash that like button. It really helps the algorithm share this story with other sci-fi fans who would love it. Plus, it lets me know you want more epic tales like this one. Second, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. We release new stories every week, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. I've got stories about humanity's first encounter with a hive mind, the day we discovered we weren't the first intelligent species from Earth, and the moment when human music literally saved the galaxy. Yes, really. Third, share this video. If you know someone who loves science fiction, who appreciates stories about human potential, or who just needs a reminder that we're capable of incredible things when we work together, send them this video. Word of mouth is still the best way for channels like mine to grow. And hey, if you want to go even deeper into this universe, let me know in the comments. Should I do a follow-up story about the Horizon's mission to investigate that mysterious message? What about a prequel showing how Dr. James Chen first developed the lighthouse technology? Or maybe a side story about other species in the Dominion earning their freedom? Your feedback literally shapes what stories I tell next, so don't be shy. Let me know what you want to see. Before I go, I want to say thank you. Thank you for spending the last hour with me, exploring this story of human courage, innovation, and our refusal to accept the impossible. In a world that sometimes feels overwhelming, stories like this remind us of what we're capable of when we refuse to give up. We're not just survivors, we're innovators, we're explorers. We're the species that looks at the impossible and says, "Watch me." Next week, I've got something special planned. A story about what happens when humanity discovers that Earth isn't our original home world and that our real ancestors are coming back to reclaim us. It's going to be epic, emotional, and full of the kind of plot twists that'll make you want to immediately watch it again. Until then, keep looking up at the stars and remember, the universe is vast, but human potential is infinite. We don't submit to anyone's order, we create our own. This has been your host, and remember, in a galaxy full of species who think they have us figured out, humanity's greatest weapon is our refusal to be anything other than gloriously, impossibly, magnificently human. I'll see you in the next story. Stay curious, stay bold, and never stop reaching for the stars.